Hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today in this webinar. The subject of the webinar is CleanPatch-V, the first medical device that repairs damaged vinyl in healthcare. My name is Tony Aboud. I'm the Vice President of Business Development here at Surface Medical. Surface Medical is the manufacturer of CleanPatch-V, and we're very pleased to have you today and hope that this is an informative hour-long educational session. A few housekeeping items before we get started. The presentation will last 30 to 35 minutes, followed by a Q&A time. So please do submit your questions on the GoWebinar tab. You can definitely write those in anytime during the 35 minute webinar, or you can wait until the end and submit them at that time. We will try and get through as many questions as we can at the conclusion of the presentation. There's also a handout tab on the menu, the toolbar. You can download the CleanPatch-V launch package through the handout tab. So please do that as well, either during the presentation or it will be available at the conclusion as well. We will be recording this session, so you're definitely welcome to share it with colleagues or play it back afterwards. So let's get started. The agenda of the presentation today is as follows. I'm going to spend the first third of the presentation talking about the problem. In this case, the problems around surface damage and the incredible risk it is to patients. Number two, I'll talk a bit about the solution, CleanPatch-V, or the first medical surface repair product for damaged vinyl in healthcare. I'll then finish by giving some thoughts around implementation and a program called the Surface Inspection and Repair Protocol. So to begin, I think it's important to state that patients in healthcare facilities are constantly lying and sitting on soft surfaces. Soft surfaces make up a large proportion of the furniture and support surfaces in many healthcare facilities today. So when a patient walks in the front door, the first thing they typically do if they're going into emergency is they will go to the nurse desk, the triage desk, and then go and sit down in the waiting room furniture. This is made of a vinyl material. They'll then go, if they're immobile or require extra assistance, they'll be put into a wheelchair, another vinyl surface, and wheeled into sort of the emergency room or maybe into an outpatient facility to get some rehab. If they're admitted into the hospital, they'll go into a patient bed where they'll lie in that for, sometimes 20, 22 hours a day, again, getting what they need to get better. And if they're in surgery, they're going on an operating room table, again, made of vinyl or a polyurethane surface. So patients are constantly interacting and lying on these soft surfaces in healthcare. The big problem, however, that we face as healthcare systems and facilities is that these soft surfaces are routinely damaged. So they go through a tremendous amount of abuse in our health systems, these soft surfaces, and end up with punctures all the way to severe cracking that can cover the entire surface. So here are two examples of some of the damaged surfaces that we've seen in our audits and in our work with customers. They really are everywhere. Last year, we actually went in and did an assessment in 5 North American hospitals and looked at the percent damage rate that we found in patient rooms. We're actually quite surprised to find that our average was 32% of surfaces were damaged. We looked at 2,500 mattresses and stretchers in our assessments. So that means that 1 in 3 patients today are lying on a damaged surface. We've also consulted the literature and we see kind of 27 to 29% damage rates. In some of our assessments in specific hospitals, we find damage as high as 45%. So this is a very prevalent, common occurrence in our health systems today. So why does this matter? Who cares? There's damage, it's in patient rooms. Well, it is a significant and severe patient safety risk to leave this damage unaddressed. Don't take my word for it. You can see what the US FDA has actually stated about this particular problem. So the FDA has actually commented twice, back in 2013, and they just did a revised a communication in 2017 about this problem. So they state very clearly in their safety communication that damaged or worn covers for medical bed mat, the risk of contamination and patient infection. So they've made that link. When you have a damaged cover for a medical mattress, it is a risk to your patients in terms of infection. They had over 700 instances of fluid ingress reported to their agency. So fluid ingress being when blood or bodily fluids transmit into the foam or into the innards of a soft surface and ingress into the product, and then it can cause some major problems down the road, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Not only the FDA, but the nonprofit ECRI in the US has also commented on this problem and actually listed it as the third biggest health hazard in the healthcare system today. So mattresses and covers may be infected by bodily fluids and microbiological contaminants. So it does matter, and it's something that the authorities and the regulatory agencies have already commented on at length. So let me talk about a real story. Let's further talk about this issue and how it can impact you as a clinician or as a healthcare provider on a day-to-day basis. So imagine this: a patient arrives into emergency room, maybe comes in with a laceration, a cut, a broken bone. They're shown into an empty stretcher. They lie in that empty stretcher, and they all of a sudden feel this wet, sort of damp sensation on their back. Well, that's peculiar. That's curious because they came in with dry clothes, and it's a sort of an interesting thing to get wet on your back when you lie on a seemingly intact and perfectly hygienic stretcher. So, this patient then presses the nurse call button, calls over the nurse. The nurse comes in and asks the patient to get up, sort of sees this red stain on the linens, peels back the linen, only to reveal that the foam has been contaminated with blood and bodily fluids. So this is a nightmare. A patient has been exposed to someone else's blood from inside the foam of a damaged mattress. Just to make this even a little bit more graphic for you, this is a real stretcher that was found by one of our customers at a busy emergency room facility in a North American hospital. So you can see here, a crack on the surface has been left unattended, and blood has transmitted into the foam and has contaminated a patient. This is a very scary occurrence because what happens here, while a patient's been exposed to someone else's blood, you have to run all the blood tests. You have to look for any sort of blood disease, hepatitis. You also have to be worried about patient infection. So this is a very severe problem. But if you're leaving your mattresses unattended and then they have damage in them and patients are lying on them, this can happen at any instance. So I think this is a big problem. I think hopefully I've illustrated how big of an issue a damaged surface can be in a healthcare setting. So what do? You're a healthcare practitioner. You're a stakeholder in your hospital. You come across damage all the time. What are the options available today? Well, replace. And I think historically it's always been stated that you need to replace your surface when you find damage. What we've heard from a lot of stakeholders and a lot of our customers is there's never enough budget to replace these surfaces. A 1-inch puncture or a tear, to have to go and buy a new $500 to $1,000 surface or mattress or a geriatric chair is just not something that most hospitals can accommodate. It's also incredibly inconvenient. We operate at 100% occupancy in a lot of our hospitals. To have to go and pull a wheelchair, a mattress, a geriatric chair out of service and find a new one in a storage room somewhere is incredibly inconvenient for hospital workers. So this is what a lot of hospitals have resorted to, is taping the damage. They'll find whatever they can find hanging around, whether it be pink tape, surgical tape, Tegaderm, Opsite, duct tape, any sort of sticky adhesive technology, and they'll try and cover up the damage. Well, the reality is this creates a sticky mess of residue on the surface that attracts bacteria, and it's really hated by infection control and any surveyor. This is not allowed by most infection control departments and survey organizations. So this is what hospitals have had to deal with over the years when they've come across this damage. 25 to 45% of the mattresses in our healthcare facilities today. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is a better solution, and I think it's one that Surface Medical has been dedicated to over the last 6 years as we innovated in this area. So whereas replace and tape the damage were the only available options a couple of years back, we decided to try to change the paradigm and develop a medical device, repair with a medical device as a solution to this problem that is both cost-effective and clinically validated. So back in 2014 in Canada and 2015 in the US, we launched a product called CleanPatch. CleanPatch was the first of its kind medical surface repair product for damaged mattresses and stretchers. As I said, it's a Class 1 medical device registered with the FDA in the US, Health Canada in Canada, and the EU as part of the CE mark. And the claim we have registered with the authorities is that we can restore damaged mattresses to an intact and hygienic state. So we take a damaged mattress that is unsafe and uncleanable and sort of a risk to patients, and we turn it back into a hygienic, safe, impervious, cleanable state again. This product is specifically indicated for patient mattresses, both air and foam, stretchers, and other stretch fabrics in healthcare. And by stretch, I mean polyurethane fabrics. This has become the standard of care for mattress repair in many healthcare institutions. We can count over 1,500 hospitals and long-term care facilities that have implemented this solution to date. So we believe that it is a good solution. It's working well with our hospitals, and we're quite happy to provide it. So, telling a bit of a story, as we've been working with my team and our distribution partners and our strategic partners, we've been out working with hospitals alongside them, looking at stretchers, helping them apply CleanPatch to create a safe and hygienic surface. What we found, however, is as we've walked through the hospitals and worked with our customers, we found a lot of damaged vinyl. So we found damaged geriatric chairs. We found damaged waiting room furniture. We found damaged wheelchairs. And we constantly had healthcare facilities worried about this problem and sort of wondering, well, why isn't this product available for vinyl surfaces as well? So I think this sort of piqued all of our interest, and we said, well, why don't we go to the drawing board and develop a solution for vinyl damage as well? So what we did is we actually put up a list on the wall, and we said, okay, so here are the things we need to accomplish in creating a vinyl repair technology. We had to make sure it was medical grade and obviously registered as a medical device. It had to be rugged and durable on a vinyl surface. So it had to hold up in an environment that is typically not covered by a linen and is typically exposed to belt buckles and sharps and jeans and shoes and other rigors that maybe a mattress doesn't see as much. It had to be cleanable by disinfectants, not collect bacteria, and obviously result in cost savings versus the alternative, which is recovering or replacement. So fast forward about a year and a half to 2 years of hard work with my team and also many healthcare stakeholders, we're proud to introduce a product called CleanPatch-V. It is a Class 1 medical device as registered in the US, Canada, and Europe. And again, the claim we have registered with the authorities is that it restores damaged vinyl to an intact and hygienic state. So very similar claims and benefits as CleanPatch. However, now we're dealing with a vinyl surface. So surfaces of interest for this product are wheelchairs, geriatric chairs, examination tables, also known as plinths, and other vinyl fabrics in healthcare. So think stools, think positioners, think imaging pads. The vinyl in healthcare, if anything, is actually more prevalent than this polyurethane stretch material that the CleanPatch deals with. So very, a lot of surfaces that this product would apply to. So here's a picture of the CleanPatch strip, we call it. It's the small size of the CleanPatch on a physical therapy table, just to give you an idea of what a product looks like. There are really three buzzwords we use to describe this technology: clinically validated, safe and simple, and cost savings. So I'm going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each of these areas here to give you a little more detail on the product. So clinically validated. Surface Medical has always been committed and dedicated to validating our technologies with independent labs and independent stakeholders. So the original CleanPatch was all validated with third-party independent labs as well as third-party health systems. We've done the same thing with this particular product. So the first thing we wanted to do was make sure that it was cleanable by disinfectants and did not collect any bacteria. This was done by a university lab, a micro lab. And basically what they did was they applied CleanPatch-V to a slide. They inoculated it with bacteria and they incubated it overnight. They then looked at the counts and compared that to a control, which was just a slide alone. Okay, so here's the slide, and it was actually done with E. coli and Staph aureus. So you had gram-positive, gram-negative, and it was looked at varying time points. So the first thing I wanted you to look at are the blue bars. You can see that the control, which was the slide alone, and the CleanPatch-V on the slide, had around the same sort of microbial growth, around a 5.3 log CFU per mil. So we can say that there's no difference in microbial growth at time 0 between CleanPatch-V and the control. It was then wiped with a bleach wipe and then looked at for bacterial counts after the cleaning intervention. And you can see here that CleanPatch-V went from about a 5.2 to a 3.5. The control went from about a 5.2 to a 4.1. So I think another conclusion we can draw from this is that CleanPatch-V can be disinfected. So you can disinfect CleanPatch-V with a bleach product, and really any product. We've subsequently proven other chemistries, and it can be disinfected. It does not collect any bacteria. So that was the first test we did to prove that the product could be cleanable. The next thing we did was to look to see if the product was stress tested. So let's make sure that the CleanPatch-V can hold up to extensive and repetitive compressions and abuse in sort of a laboratory environment. So this test was actually done at EC Services in Salt Lake City, Utah, one of the leading authorities on wheelchair and stretcher testing. They do a lot of the soft surface and the sport surface testing for the big manufacturers. So they have an ISO test where they have, it's called a wheelchair fatigue test. And you can see here in the picture, it's literally a buttocks-shaped weight. It's shaped as a buttocks, and it provides pressure and force downwards on a wheelchair cushion. So basically, the CleanPatch-V was applied over a ripped wheelchair cushion, and then this buttocks-shaped indenter would apply repetitive compressions on that CleanPatch-V. This was done over 90,000 cycles. So here's the CleanPatch-V after 50,000 cycles, and here's the CleanPatch-V over 90,000 cycles. So there was no difference at all in the patch. The patch remained intact and did not show any evidence of peeling or of removing itself. So this is equivalent to 3 years of simulated use as per the ISO standard. So we can say pretty confidently that the product is stress tested. Once it's on a surface, it is meant to be there and it will stay there. Lastly, we wanted to translate that laboratory testing into a real clinical validation, so a real hospital study. So CleanPatch-V was actually applied to 26 vinyl surfaces in a hospital setting. So a hospital allowed us to come in. We looked at all their jerry chairs, wheelchairs, procedure chairs, imaging pads, waiting room furniture, all the damage we could locate. We did a bit of an assessment, which I'll talk about in a minute. We assessed it to make sure it sort of met the criteria for repair. 26 of the vinyl surfaces met the criteria, and we went and applied the CleanPatch-V over a 12-week period. So these are chairs that patients are in contact every day, cleaning staff are wiping down every day. This is a rigorous sort of a real life environment. At the conclusion of the 12-week study, we found that 96% remained intact. So nearly every patch remained intact. The ones, a couple of them disappeared actually. So the ones that, the 4% that did not, somebody must have, seen it as a foreign object. and probably worked really hard to remove it. So, that comes down to education, I think. Maybe they weren't aware of the study or the trial, but we can say quite confidently that the product is staying intact in a real hospital setting. So that sort of covers off clinically validated. Let's move on to the next buzzword, which is safe and simple. So how do you apply this product? Step one is you locate the damage. You disinfect the crack or the tear, and that's done with whatever cleaner you use, so bleach, quartz, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide. Important step is to let it dry, really make sure it's adequately dry before adding the CleanPatch-V. You then remove the backing. So the CleanPatch-V actually comes with a white backing support surface. You remove that. You position the patch over the crack in kind of your thumb and index finger. Put a little bit of a U on it to make sure there's no air bubbles. You then apply the product, smooth it with your fingers, and then your last step again is to disinfect. This whole process takes from start to finish about 10 seconds. So your longest step is actually waiting for the disinfectant to dry on the surface, waiting for the drying time, contact time. Maybe that's a minute to 2 minutes. So the actual application of the CleanPatch-V is very quick. It is also safety angle is it is using all medical grade materials that are biocompatible, non-cytotoxic, and latex free. So it's actually a medical grade vinyl material that we've manufactured custom for our product, but it is very much the same material as a typical exam table or a wheelchair. As I like to joke sometimes is if you can put a Band-Aid on your finger when you have a cut, you can put a CleanPatch-V on an exam table when there's a rip or tear. So very, very simple to apply. Let's go to the last buzzword, which is cost savings. Again, all this would be great, but if it didn't save any money, it wouldn't be as sort of interesting, I think, to most health systems. So at the end of the day, this is a massive cost saver. And we're not talking about indirect cost saving, we're talking about the direct equipment cost savings. So you are able to prevent or avoid reupholstering or recovering or buying a new surface because you're repairing with a medical device. We like to say over 10 plus repairs with CleanPatch-V is typically less than one exam table reupholstering. So you can go and find 10 damaged surfaces, apply your patches to them for less than the cost of going and paying a maintenance guy to come in and reupholster an exam table. So tremendous cost savings potential. And I'm going to carry that on by saying that we've actually proven this in a rehab facility that we've worked with in sort of the beta stage of this product. So we actually went into a rehab facility. They told us that they had, I think they had 14 exam tables that were damaged and were looking at a hefty reupholstery bill. We were able to repair 12 of the 14 exam tables. There were a few we were not able to repair, and I'll touch on that next slide. But we were able to repair 12 exam tables at a total cost savings of $4,500. This whole process took about 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes time, we went in working with their staff and saved almost $5,000. That's real money that can go towards rehab equipment or things that will help patient recovery and rehabilitation. So I think that's money that can be better spent elsewhere than having to reupholster. So $400 is what they were quoting from a maintenance guy, and the CleanPatch-V cost range between $17 and $42, depending on size. So these are the 4 SKUs we have available today. They are available right now direct through Surface Medical as we build distribution, which we're working to do. There are 2 sizes. So a 1.75 by 4 inch, we call it a strip, like a Band-Aid strip, and a 5.75 by 8 inch rectangle, which is quite a bit larger. And we determined these 2 sizes when we went and actually did a bunch of assessments of hospitals to see the sizing and the type of damage that is on vinyl. We find that it's either little punctures or tears, or if it's cracking, it's quite a bit larger. So rule of thumb, I think, is that it's about a 70-30 split. So 70% of the damage will be small, 30% will be the larger cracked versions. So we have a 10 box of the strip, a 5 box of the rectangle, a variety kit with 7 strip and 3 rectangle, and then what we call a starter kit, 2 strip and 1 rectangle, which is a great way to start working with the technology. We have something called an implementation kit as well, which is a little user guide that walks through our protocol, which I'm going to talk on in a bit. We believe very strongly that this product needs to be used along with a protocol. You need to be responsible with how you use a repair technology like this. And at the end of the day, the protocol, to summarize it for the sake of this webinar, when you come across a damaged surface, you really need to ask yourself 3 questions. How big is the damage? What is the damage size? What is the damage location? So is it on a flat surface or a corner? And are there any signs of fluid ingress? Are there any sort of warping, staining, or discoloration of that surface? If you find that the damage is on a 3-dimensional corner, the damage is larger than 6 inches, or there's any signs of fluid ingress, we would absolutely advocate for you to replace or recover that surface. That is not an appropriate surface for you to repair. However, if you find that the damage is a flat or side, the damage is smaller than 6 inches, and there's no signs of fluid ingress, we would advocate for repair with the medical device. And that's really what the implementation system and protocol supports, is this two-pronged strategy around the protocol. We've been doing a lot of work on this. Because this is a new program or new protocol in a hospital or healthcare system, we have to sort of start with the basics. It's not like there's already typically we hear from a lot of people that there's not a very good sort of mattress and surface integrity program in place today. Most hospitals don't know how bad their damage is. They don't know who's tracking it, so they gotta kind of start from scratch. So we believe that there's really 4 steps to implement appropriately. So number 1 is to actually empower a damage champion. So this person is predominantly from infection control or risk management, and they're the ones that are overseeing the entire program to make sure that it's successful. They are the ones that are really dedicated to patient safety. They know the risks of leaving damaged surfaces, and they want to prevent these sort of patient exposure nightmares that I talked about previously. So this person is very important to engage in the early stages in order to drive the program forward. I think once this program's in place, or once this damage champion's in place, it's then up to try and find the damage fixers. So these are the folks that will actually know the protocol. They'll know how to assess a mattress or a wheelchair, and they can ultimately make the decision of repair or replace. So ideally, the damage fixer has inventory of CleanPatch available. Maybe it's in their storage carts, or it's in their supply cabinet. And they also have replacement covers. They have replacement mattresses, or they have the maintenance guy's number for reupholstery when they come across a surface that cannot be repaired. So once you have a few of these people, we find that this person varies hospital to hospital, but it could be anyone from the maintenance people, or sometimes it's portering that will be these people. Once you have the damage fixers happy, engaged, ready to go, you then need to make sure that there's an effective communication strategy. So that person, that damage fixer needs to have a way for them to be contacted by either phone number, maybe it's a dedicated email address, maybe it's through a facilities software program. But it has to be some way for that person to get a word or a signal when damage is found. I joke sometimes it's 1-800-GOT-RIPS. You can develop a sort of a fun little jingle or damage@hospital.org. That would also work. This is the last step, and this is probably the most challenging step that we've found in working with our hospitals, which is mobilize as many damage monitors as you can. So the damage fixer, by very nature, does not see the surfaces every day. They are typically in their maintenance shop, or they're portering, they're transporting people around. They don't have the eyes of the facility. So you have to sort of leverage or recruit the eyes of the facility. And this is the housekeepers, this is the environmental service, This is the terminal cleaners. This is the physicians, the nurses, any frontline staff that comes in contact with patient surfaces every day. The damage monitors don't necessarily need to know the crux of the protocol. All they need to know is that when they see damage, they need to report it to the damage fixer. They need to call 1-800-GOT-RIPS, or they need to email damage@hospital.org. So I think if this whole program can happen in concert, you can have a nice successful outcomes. So these are some of the resources we have available today through our site, cleanpatch.us or cleanpatch.ca. It's the same site. So here we have a brochure. We have a very nice user guide that describes the protocol. We have a 1-minute, 45-second whiteboard video that actually describes the product and might be fun to show to staff to get them excited about the opportunity, the product, and the need for it. There's also all the handouts in the webinar toolbar section are also available to download, or you can download them independently on our website. That is the conclusion of sort of the presentation portion. I'm at 32 minutes, so right in where we thought we would be. So again, my name is Tony Aboud at Surface Medical. We are the manufacturer of CleanPatch-V. You can email me at tony@surfacemedical.ca. Anybody who tunes into the webinar is also eligible to receive a free sample of CleanPatch-V. So please, if this is of interest, you can email me and we can, with your address, and we can definitely send you that information. Maybe we will pause here and I will look at see if there's any questions. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so we have one question so far coming in. So the question is, are there any other colors available? So that is a good question. And we all are aware that vinyl comes in a multiple plethora of colors, from pink to burgundy to green to black to 4 different shades of blue. So I think what we've decided as an organization is that we would standardize to a single color to keep costs down and to keep complexity down, and make sure that that product did what it was supposed to do, which was render the surface intact, hygienic, and safe for patients. So at the end of the day, I guess I advocate that this is a healthcare environment. We're not in the fashion industry. So as long as that surface is intact and hygienic and safe for patients, a little bit of color difference shouldn't matter. And at the end of the day as well, I think it is much better to have a medical device repairing a surface than a pink duct tape or a big giant crack or tear staring at your patient and your staff every day. So we feel that we're going to start with the black. We're going to get some momentum in the marketplace and start with that at this time. So thank you for that question. We'll take another look at the message board here. Yeah, so we've had a question, can you supply costs for the different SKUs? This can definitely be provided in a quotation after the fact. I gave you a bit of a range in the presentation, but we will provide a formal quote with sort of shipping details and things like that, and currency. We do have people on the line from different countries. So absolutely, we can provide pricing right after this webinar individually. And then the last question I have here is, what do the surveyors think of repair? So questions around what does like a joint commission or a survey organization think about repairing a surface? So we have a lot of experience with this with our CleanPatch product line for mattress repair. We've had conversations and interactions with many authorities on this already. And basically what we've heard is that they do not endorse specific products. They speak to protocols. So their concept was, as long as the product was FDA registered or Health Canada registered and was used according to a validated protocol, that they would have no problem with it. So again, CleanPatch and CleanPatch-V are registered medical devices. We advocate that they're used according to a very specific protocol by very specifically trained individuals. And in fact, we've heard anecdotally that many people have gone through surveys successfully. So that's what I can say about that. And really, it is the first of its kind solution out there. So Sometimes you have to educate your surveyors on the product, but generally that goes very well. So I think maybe we just leave it for 1 minute, see if any more questions come in on the chat. Okay, looks like everybody has had their questions answered. So again, I guess as a conclusion here, please download the handouts on the toolbar. If you'd like a copy of the presentation or the webinar, we will be supplying that as well in a link. And then if you want a sample, I guess the only thing I need from you is an address and a contact name. We can provide that. So thank you very much for your time today, and hope you have a great rest of your week.